So, what we're doing today, I said, was, trying to clear this out here, was long division. And it's going to be just like regular long division from elementary school. And I'm going to show that to you, okay? Let me get this cleared. I'm making a recording of this today, like of my voice and stuff, because this is a little kind of tedious and detailed. And if you want to go back and watch the video, I'll put it in Schoology if you need help watching the video. Or, if you need help, you can maybe watch the video, and hopefully that might clear something up for you. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so let's look at just a normal old long division problem back in 4th grade, or whatever grade they used to teach that in. I think I learned it in 4th. So if we have 486 divided by 7, what's the first step? Yeah, and I think most of y'all have already, your brain just kind of does it now because you're a little bit better in math than you were in 4th grade. But you know that 7 doesn't go into 4, so then you have to scoot over one more, and you say 7 will go into 48 how many times? And if you're like me, you kind of have to just kind of throw out a number, and go, okay, and I kind of did 8 first. So in my mind, before I even write down 8, I go, 8 times 7 is 56. Oh, that's too much. So then I backtrack a little bit. Okay, 7 times 7, 49. That's still too much. So it's got to be a 6 because it was right there. So 6 times 7. So notice I write it down. Then I multiply them, okay, and I get 42. So over here on over here on that board, and I guess I could write it here. First we divided, then we just multiplied just then. Okay, next we're going to subtract 48 minus 42, and we're going to get 6. And then we bring down that 6, okay, and then we start over again. Okay, it's like rinse and repeat. Okay, so now we divide again. So 7, something times 7 will go into 66. Okay, 9. 9 times 7 is 63. So we divide, we multiplied. I just did that when I wrote that 63. And then you subtract, and there's nothing else to bring down. Okay, so now I have a remainder 3. When you first started learning to divide, you would write it like that, remainder 3. And then eventually your teachers taught you, oh, it's really a fraction. It's whatever your remainder is divided by, I think that's called your divisor. Okay, 3 divided by 7, 3 over 7. Okay, so we have the steps over here. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and repeat. Okay, so let's look at an algebra problem. Now they have one worked out here, but I kind of found when I tried to explain this in first period, it just didn't make a bit of sense until we actually kind of worked one. So you have this to refer back to if you need to, okay? Okay. So they say determine whether x plus 4 is a factor. So it's a factor if, okay, yes, it's a factor if you don't have a remainder, if it divides evenly, okay? Divides evenly, okay? So if we get a remainder, then we go, well, okay, it's not like a perfect factor. Okay, so we're saying x squared plus 6x plus 8 divided by x plus 4. So one of the key things is you've got to be very neat with your work and keep everything lined up perfectly. For several reasons, it just works better that way. But then if you try to find your mistake, or me, your coach tries to find your mistake, we can find it better too, okay? Okay, so the first step is to divide. So we're going to cover up everything but the first term with our hands. We're going to cover that up. And we're going to cover up the 4 with our hands. So we're going to say something that's going to go here times x is x squared. What would that be? An x. And you're going to write it right here. So these are always going to match. Like you're going to have x's here. You're not going to have an x to the third up here. They're always going to match. The x's will match. Okay? So we divided. We did the first step, divide. Now we're going to multiply. So x times x is x squared, and x times 4 is 4x. It's kind of like distributing, except it's just not written out to the side. What do you think the next step is? Subtract. So you have to be careful here. This is where you have to be the most careful. Most careful. Okay, this is the part I like the least. Okay, so since you're subtracting, you need to change everybody's sign. He becomes a minus, he becomes a minus. And I circle them so they will stand out, and I will know to do that, the circled one, and not the other one. Okay, so you got to, and even on my notes, you'll see me doing that I've done that. Okay, so now x squared minus x squared is what? 0. And every single time, you're always, going to get a 0 or nothing here. If these don't match right here, you did it wrong. Okay? And so that's a really good, check as you're going through it. It kind of helps you know if you're doing it right or not. Okay? Then 6 minus 4 is what? It's a positive 2x. Okay, so we subtracted. Now we're going to bring down the 8. That's the next step. Bring down the 8. And then we're going to do the process all over again. So I'm going to cover up the first ones right here, kind of with my fingers. Cover up the 4 over here with my fingers. Okay? Something times x is 2x. And if you want to have a clue what that something is right here, that's a plain number. So it's going to be a plain number here. Okay? So 2 times x is 2x. Okay? Whoops, I should have written a 2 there. A plus 2. Now we multiply. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 4 is 8. Now, I can go ahead and say, oh, I'm going to subtract these and change the signs. But because they're the same, do I really need to change the signs? So anything minus itself is going to be 0 because they're exactly the same. Okay, when you have exactly the same here, you know your remainder is 0. So x plus 2 is the factor that we were looking for, and it's a perfect factor without a remain. So yes, it's a factor. If we got a remainder, wouldn't be a perfect factor. Okay, so we're going to, I think, you'll catch on as we do some more examples of these. It's just kind of slow and steady wins the race. You just got to kind of not be too fast. Okay, so you have x to the third plus 3x squared minus 6x minus 7. Leave you a little bit of room right there. I almost didn't leave enough. Okay, we're going to try this one. Well, does this one divide by x plus 4 perfectly? Do we get a remainder or do we not get a remainder? Okay? Okay, how do you get started? The first one and the first one. If you need to cover these up with your fingers, do it, or your pencil or something. Okay, and where do we write that answer? Yeah, on the top, not above here. In those notes that were already typed up, they write it above here. I like to write it over here because then that gives me a clue what my answer is going to be like, and everything will match. So I'm going to get something that's an x squared, okay? So x squared, something x squared times x is going to be x to the third. What's it going to be? Yeah, x squared. That was pretty easy, okay? What's the next step? Not subtract. We don't have anything to subtract. Multiply. That's right. Okay, x squared times x is x to the third. Did I get the exact same thing? Yes, so that's a good sign. Okay, x squared times 4 is 4x squared. Notice I have all x squareds right there. That's what it should be. Okay, now we subtract, which means we have to change everybody's sign. So you have to be super careful about that. He becomes a minus, he becomes a minus. So those are going to make a 0. You don't have to write the 0. In fact, I wouldn't. I think that's going to make it look more complicated. What's 3 minus 4? Negative 1x squared. Bring down the 6x. Okay. Nope, just only one thing at a time. Good question, though. Nobody's asked that this morning. Okay, so now, just look at the first terms. Something that's going to go here times x is negative 1x squared, and it's going to be an x. So a negative 1x. Should have written that in the same color. Let's see. Negative 1x. Okay, so now let's multiply it. Negative 1x times x is negative 1x squared. Did I get the same thing? Yes, good sign. Okay, negative 1x times 4 is negative 4x. So now we have to do what? Subtract, and that means we have to change everybody's sign. So that negative becomes a positive, and that negative becomes a positive. You might even circle them. Okay, so that makes us 0. So that's a good, we know that. What's negative 6 plus 4? Negative 2x. Now we bring down the negative 7. Okay. And our last time. Okay, so something that's going to be a plain number. That's a plain number. So what I'm going to write here is going to be a plain number. Something that's going to be a plain number times x is going to be negative 2x. Negative 2. That's right. Okay. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Okay, so now we're going to subtract. So that means we got to change everybody's sign. That makes nothing, which is what we wanted to happen. And what do we get here? A 1. So our answer is x squared minus 1x minus 2. Back in the old days, you would have put an R1, remainder 1. But we're going to make a fraction out of it, just like in long division. Okay, you say 1 over that number right there, over the divisor. Okay, so plus 1 over x plus 4. Make a fraction out of it. If you go back and look at that long division problem, that's what we did. The remainder, I think it was 3 right here divided by 7. I think that's what that was. So, is this one a factor? No, because we got a remainder. No, is not a factor. Okay, we got a remainder. Okay. So y'all kind of catching on to the steps? A little bit, maybe? Okay. Now, before you write this one down, notice we have an x to the third, we have an x squared, and then it skips to 15. What's missing? The plain x. So we have to have a plain x in there. Like I was telling the other classes, if I'm dividing by, if I'm doing, 432 divided by 6, I can't just say 4 and 2 and have a blank there. I mean, that would be ridiculous, right? It's kind of the same thing here. It's kind of ridiculous. You have to have you have to have one of everybody. So this is how we fix that. We say 2x to the third minus 9x squared plus 0x. We don't have any x's, do we? Okay? Plus 15. Divided by 2x minus 5. So on your homework, there's one on your homework like that and I'll tell you which one it is, okay? But after that, you kind of got to start looking for it yourself. Okay, so don't look at anything else but the first term in the first term. Something that we're going to write here with above this x squared, so that means it's going to be something x squared, times 2x equals 2x to the third. What would that be? X squared, okay? And if you're not sure, in a minute we're going to find out if you were right. Because x squared times 2x is 2x to the third. Because remember, you add the exponents. Okay, so we got the exact same thing. Let's keep going here, though. X squared times negative 5 is negative 5x squared. What's our next step? Subtract, that's right. So that means we got to change everybody's sign. He becomes a minus, he becomes a plus. Okay, so that's going to cancel out and make nothing. And that should happen every single time. Okay, negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4x squared. Okay, and then plus the 0x. There's a 0 there because we didn't have any x's up here, and we had to fill it in. You have to have some, you know, every one of them has to be accounted for. Okay, there's Maggie. Okay, so, pick up the pink right there. Okay, so something divided by 2x is negative 4x squared. What is that? Negative 2, and what's it end with? An x. There's your hint, your clue. There's your Blue's Clue right there. Okay? Okay, so negative 2x times 2x is negative 4x squared, and negative 2x times negative 5 is positive 10x. Okay, what's the next step? Got to change the signs. Okay, so he becomes a plus. Whoops, let me do that in a different color. He becomes a plus. He becomes a minus. Getting this down, Gabriel? Okay, so 0 minus 10 is negative 10x. What do we do next? Drag down the 15. Okay, and then repeat. Let's see. So something, and it's going to be a plain number, okay, because that's a plain number. It's going to match. Something times 2x is going to be negative 10x. Negative 5. Negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Okay? And then we subtract, so that becomes a plus. That becomes a minus. So 15 minus 25 is negative 10. So we had a remainder, didn't we? Okay, and this question isn't asking is it a factor? We don't have to answer yes or no. We just have to write the answer. Okay, so the answer is x squared minus 2x minus 5. Okay, but it's a minus 10. So minus 10 over 2x minus 5. So if your remainder is a minus, use a minus. If your remainder is a plus, use a plus. I was telling last period, though, that it could always be a plus, and then you could just make sure you have a negative 10 on the top. It could be written like that. You see the difference right here? It can be a minus there, as long as you have a minus either there or there. Okay, so we've done 3. We're doing pretty good. Okay, y'all got it? Getting it? So the last problem's a word problem. Okay, and it's explaining, I'm not going to work the very last problem. I'm just going to work this one. Maybe if it switches over. Tomorrow we're going to do long division, but we're going to learn a easier way. Okay, so this says the volume of a carton. So a carton, they just kind of really mean like a box, right? It may not be a cube. It may have a little, rectangle shape. We don't know. Okay, so the whole volume of it is given to be this polynomial. If the height of the carton, so they give us one of the dimensions of the carton. How do you find the volume of a carton or of a rectangular prism, I guess it is? Yeah, well, it's length times width times the height, okay? You have 3 dimensions. Okay, they gave us the height right there. We're trying to find the length and the width. So, and they gave us the volume. So we're going to take the volume and divide it by the height, and that's going to give us the length and width already multiplied together, okay? So we're going to take the volume, and don't worry about these big numbers. They end up not being so bad after all until maybe a little bit towards the end. So when you're copying the problem, make sure you copy it correctly. That's part of the battle too. Okay, so, y'all ready? Okay, so don't look at any of this, and don't look at that. Just look at the first terms. 6x to the third divided by x, and we're going to write it over here. It's going to be something x squared. That's right. So what is it going to be? Because it's going to match. Okay, a 6. Okay, so 6x squared times x is 6x to the third. Okay, so if you don't get this exact same number here, oops, you've already started off on the wrong foot. Back up and refigure. Okay, 6x squared times negative 6 is negative 36x squared. Okay, but we're not going to add 36 and 35 together. We are going to change these signs, okay, because we're subtracting here. So he becomes a minus, he becomes a plus. Yeah, so then 36 minus 35 is an x squared, just 1x squared. Okay, we're going to bring down the 41x, okay, and we're going to do it again. Okay, so you just look at the first terms, something that's going to go here, and you know what it's going to end in. It's going to end in an x times x is x squared. What is it? Yeah, an x. That was pretty easy. Okay, so x times x is x squared. They're the same. Good job for us. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Okay? So we got to subtract, which means we really have to change his sign and change his sign. So then those cancel out. Negative 41 plus 6 is negative 35x. Bring down the 210. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. Okay. So something, and because this is a plain number, that means our answer right here is going to be a plain number. A plain number times x is negative 35x. What is that going to be? Negative 35. So we're going to put negative 35 here, and then we're going to multiply it out. Make sure we're right. Yep, it's going to be the same. What's negative 35 times negative 6? Positive 35 times 6. You all got calculators on your desk. 210. Okay, so look, they're the same. So we really don't have to change their signs, do we? Okay, they're going to, anything divided, not divided, anything subtracted by itself is 0. So we don't have a remainder. Okay, so what is this polynomial up here? What is it representing? The length and the width. Okay, so the length and the width multiplied together was this 6x squared minus x. So if I factor it, then I get the length and the width, and it asked for the dimensions. Okay, so this is kind of a big factoring problem. So I'm just going to give you the answers to it. Okay, you would have to factor this by grouping. Okay, and so it's 2x plus 5 and 3x minus 7. Okay? Okay. So the dimensions are, they gave us the height. If you multiply this times this times this, the height times the length times the width, and we don't really know which one of these is the length and which one is the width. We don't really care. Okay? Then we would get this right here. Okay? Okay. So that's that. Let me turn this off.